We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph and Meseches Shevuos. This is Shevuos Daf 49a. Rav Huna says, La kol megalgalin, for all Shevuos we do gilgal Shvuah, meaning to say, again, if the person is taking one Shvuah, we'll make him take another Shvuah as well. Chutz misacher, except for the Shvuah of the hired worker, she'ein megalgalin, we do not do gilgal Shvuah over there. Rashi explains, La kol megalgalin al yedei kol shvuah d'Rabbanan. What it means is on any shvuah, even if it's a shvuah d'Rabbanan, megalgalin, we will do gilgal shvuah. We'll give a person again another shvuah that he might not have taken on its own, but we'll use gilgal shvuah. Chutz me'al yad shavuas sacher, except for through shavuas sacher, which is the shvuah of the hired worker that he hasn't been paid yet. She'ein megalgalin olav al yedei al yada shvuas acheres, that you're not going to do through it another shvuah. And the reason for that is lafi shehi atzma einam hadin, because even that shvuah, it's not something that really technically he has to take. Ela lohafis daito shel balabayis, it's just to appease the mind of the balabayis, to put the balabayis at ease that he hasn't yet paid. Kidamar b'chol hanishboin, like we say in Parakol hanishboin. And the Gemara continues, Rav Chisda says, La kol ein mekilin, for all the shvuahs we are not lenient, chutz misacher de mekilin, except for the shvuah sacher in which we are lenient. And Rashi explains, La kol ein mekilin, we're not lenient, ela megalglin, rather we do gilgal shvuah for all shvuahs, vihihi, and that's exactly the same comment that Rav Huna just made. The idea is, again, for all shvuah d'Rabbanans we will do gilgal shvuah, except for the shvuah of sacher. And so the Gemara says, if they're saying the same thing, mai beinayu, so what's the difference between them? The Gemara says, Ika beinayu, the difference is liftoach lo, is Bezdin going to offer that initially, to offer the idea of an extended shvuah. As Rashi explains, liftoach lo im lo toan hatoveya. Let's say the claimant, he doesn't make that claim. He doesn't say shia galgalo all of that. They should employ gilgal shvuah over here and extend the shvuah and make the other party take other shvuahs as well. Let's say the claimant doesn't say anything. So yiftechu lo bezdin gilgal lamanda amar megalgalin. According to the one who says megalgalin, who uses that language, which is Rav Huna, so the bezdin is going to offer that option of gilgal shvuah. Ulamanda amar ein mekilin, but according to the one who said ein mekilin, which was Rav Chisda, imtoan gilgal, if the person claims that he wants to extend the shvuah, he wants to use gilgal shvuah, ein mekilin olav, then we're not lenient, and we do employ gilgal shvuah. Ela megalglin, we're going to be megalglin. V'im lo toanu, but if the person doesn't make the claim, ein lanu liftoach lo, we're not going to go make that claim on his behalf. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, v'hashvias meshametes v'chulu. The Mishnah said that the Shemitah year not only does it cancel loans, but it would also cancel obligations to take Shevuos. The Gemara says, Menohani Mili, from where do we know this? Amar Rav Gidl Amar Rav. Rav Gidl says that Rav says, the Yamar Krah, because the Pasuk says, v'zed devar hashmita, and we're going to darshan from the word devar. It means v'afilu dibor meshametes, even speech, meaning even a Shvuah is going to be canceled. Hadran aloch kol hanishboin, we will return to you Perek kol hanishboin. This is the end of the 7th Perek of Mesechet Shevuos. If you're enjoying these videos and this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And take a look at the description box below to see how you can support this channel. And we will now begin the 8th Perek of Mesechet Shevuos. And the Perek begins with the Mishnah, Arba Shomer Hein. There are 4 kinds of watchmen. There's the Shomer Chinam, the unpaid watchman, V'ashoel, the borrower, Nosei Socher, that's the paid watchman, V'asocher, and the renter. And the Mishnah says, Shomer Chinam Nishba al Hakola. Shomer Chinam, he takes an oath on everything, meaning to say he's exempt from everything except for negligence. V'ashoel Meshalem es Hakola, and the borrower, he pays for everything. He pays even for accidents. And Nosei Socher, V'hasocher, when it comes to the paid watchman and when it comes to the renter. So Nishboin al Hashvura, V'al Hashvuya, V'al HaMesa, they can take an oath. Let's say the animal breaks its limb, or let's say it's captured, or let's say it dies. Those are all accidents, not responsible for that. Umishalmin es ha'aveda ves haganeva. However, the socher and the shomer socher, they do have to pay if it's lost or if it's stolen. And Rashi explains, Arba Shomer Nosei Socher is the same as a Shomer B'Socher, that's somebody again who watches and he gets paid to watch. Nishba al Hakol, swears on everything, that's referring to the Shomer Chinam. Shalo Pasha, he takes a shvuah that he was not negligent, as long as he wasn't negligent, he's not responsible. And then the Shoel the borrower, Mishalem es Hakol, he pays for everything. And Rashi says, Kol Hanach demisnu b'masnis, in all of the various types of cases that are mentioned in the Mishnah, like Shavar, again, let's say the animal breaks a limb, it gets injured, or Shvuya, it's captured, V'meser, it dies, Ugneva v'aveda, or let's say it gets stolen or it's lost. In all of those cases, the shoel is going to be responsible. Avol mesa machmas malacha. However, let's say the animal dies in the regular course of doing its work, so they're actually pater. There, the shoel actually is pater. Delav lu'ukma bechil sashayla. He's not borrowing it to do nothing with it, just to put it in its pen. He's borrowing it in order to use it, and so therefore he is going to be pater by mesa machmas malacha, but he's going to be chayiv by everything else that's listed in the Mishnah. And then nosei sachar v'hasocher. Then the Mishnah said what a shomer sachar is responsible responsible for, what a socher is responsible for, which again is Geneva via Veda. And Rashi says, V'kulu mikro yalfinon b'hashoel b'baba mitzia. All of this is learned out from Sukkim in Parak HaShoel and Baba Mitzia. V'hamishna zos kvar shnuya b'hasocher sapolim. And this Mishnah actually is already taught in Hasocher sapolim. Kol ki hai gavna v'hai dehoder Rebbe v'tanya hacha. The reason why, even though all of this was learned in Hasocher sapolim, Kol ki hai gavna, everything was taught there, the reason why Rebbe is going ahead and learning it, v'tanya hacha, learning it again over here, mishum deboy lemisni chiyuve yipturei the carbon shvua didu, because we're about to say the liabilities and the exemptions in terms of carbon shvua, which again is a situation where the person took an oath falsely with regards to trying to exempt himself. The shomer took a false oath, and then he has to bring the carbon shvua. He has to pay a fifth, as we're going to see. So tana bereisha chiyuve upture demamon didu. So first, the beginning of this Mishnah just tells of the general monetary liability and exemption. Lefisha carbon hashvua de chiyuve upture tali bekach, because the bringing of the carbon shvua is dependent upon whether the person would have been chayiv in terms of the oath that he was taking. Meaning, shem nishbal davar shu mechuyev olav im hoda. Let's say he took an oath regarding something that had he admitted, so he would have been chayiv. Uvishvuah so pater atzma, but through his shvuah he actually exempted himself milashalim from paying. So nimsa shekov ramamon. So then it comes out that his shvuah was really a denial of a monetary obligation. The chayiv carbon shvuas hapikadon. He has to bring the carbon shvuah. It's called the carbon shvuas hapikadon. The chomesh v'yasham. He brings the chomesh and the yasham. He's going to have to pay the fifth, and he's going to have to bring that carbon asham. V'im nishbal sheker al chinam. But let's say he takes a false oath, but it's for nothing because he would have been exempt anyway. Meaning had he admitted to the truth, he still wouldn't have paid. So then Eino Chayiv carbon shvua. Then he's not Chayiv a carbon shvua, Shalo Kafram Mamun, because in such a situation, he didn't deny a monetary obligation, Kedim Mefarish V'yazal, as the Mishnah is about to explain. Amar L'Shomer Chinam V'chulu ad Pater. Again, that's going to be the next lines of the Mishnah. She'ilu Hoda Lo Hayim Meshalim. Because again, had he admitted to the truth, he wouldn't have paid. Nimsa She'im Kan Kviras Mamun. Comes out, there's no denial of money. Upater mi carbon shvua, and therefore he's Pater from the carbon shvua. And the Mishnah continues, Amar l'shomer chinam, if he says to the shomer chinam, Heichon shori, where's my axe? Amar lo, the shomer chinam says to him, in mace, it died. Again, he's not responsible for that, because that's considered an accident, so he takes an oath that it died. V'husha nishbar o nishba o nignav o avad. But what actually happened was that it was injured, or was captured, or was stolen, or was lost. And the point over here is that if he would have said the truth, he would have been pater as well, as Rashi just explained. Or the case could be as follows. Nishbar, he says it was injured. V'husha meso nishba o nignav o avad. But in actuality, it died, or was captured, it was stolen, it was lost. Or nishba, he says it was captured. V'husha meso nishbar o nignav o avad. But really it died, or it was injured, or it was stolen or lost. Or nignav, he claims it was stolen. V'husha meso nishbar, and again it died, or it was injured. O nishba o avad, or it was captured, it was lost. Or avad, he claims it was lost. V'husha meso nishbar, and it actually died, or it was injured. O nishba o nignav, or it was captured, or it was stolen. And mashbiyacha ani, again, he makes him take an oath to this effect, v'yamar amen, and he says amen, so he takes this false oath. But again, had he admitted the truth, he would not have had to pay. So pater, so then he's exempt from the carbon shvua. Or Heichon Shori, let's say you have a case like this, where he says, where's my axe? Amar lo, Eini Yodea Matasach. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. V'hu shemeis, o nishbar, o nishba, o nignav, o avad. But again, it actually died, or it was injured, it was captured, it was stolen, it was lost. Mashbiachani, again, he administers an oath to him. V'yamar amen, and he says amen. Again, pater, he's going to be pater in this case, because had he said the truth, he would have been exempt from monetary payment. Heichon Shori, he says to him, where's my axe? Amar lo avad, he says it was lost. Mashbiacha ani, he says to him that I'm going to give you an oath to that effect. V'yamar amen, and then he says amen, he takes that oath. V'ha'edim mi'idim oso sha'achlo, but then in this particular case, the witnesses actually testify that he's the one that consumed the axe. So in this case, the shomer chinam, he was taking a shvuah that it was lost to try to exempt himself, and had he admitted to the truth, so he actually would have had to pay in this case. So again, in this case, if the witnesses are the ones that testify against him, Mishalim es HaKeren, and then he pays just for the principle, because the halacha of Keren v'chomesh v'yashim is only when he admits, as we're about to see. Hoda me'atzmo, now if he admits on his own, Mishalim Keren v'chomesh v'yashim, then he has to pay the principle and a fifth, and he has to bring the carbon asham, because again, in this case, what he swore to falsely would have actually exempted him, because had he said the truth, he would have had to pay. And the Mishnah continues, Heichon Shori, the person says, where's my axe? V'yamar lo nignav, again, the Shomer Chinam says it was stolen. Mashbiachani, he says, I'm going to give you an oath. V'yamar amen, he says amen. V'o'edim mi'idim oso shagonvo, and then the witnesses in this case, they testify that he's the one that actually stole it. So Mishalim tashlume kefil, so then he has to pay kefil, he has to pay the double payment, and that's the payment for a case of toin tainas ganav, where he claims that it was stolen, but he actually is a thief, so he has to pay kefil. Now hoda me'atzman, if he admits on his own, so mishalim karen v'chomesh v'yashtim, so there's no kefil payment because that doesn't apply when there's an admission. But since he admitted, so now he has to pay again the principal and the fifth and bring the carbon asham. And the Mishnah continues, Amar le'echad b'shuk, let's say he says to somebody in the marketplace, Hey Shori, where's my axe? Shaganafta, that you're the one that stole it. Hu omer lo ganafti, now the person says, no, I didn't steal it. Va'edim idem oso shaganvo, and witnesses testify that in fact he did steal it, he was a ganav. So mashalin tashlum kefil, so he pays the double payment again of a ganav. Tavach u'machar, let's say he slaughtered it or he sold it. Mashalin tashlum arba v'chamishi, he pays the payment of 4 or 5 times the amount. Again, it's going to be 5 times the amount by a shor, it's going to be 4 times the amount by a seh. Now let's say the person sees witnesses are coming, they're about to come and testify against him, and Amar ganafti, and he says, I did steal, avalo tavachti v'lo macharti, but I did not slaughter, I did not sell, so in that case, eino mashalem ela keren, then he's only going to pay the principal. Amar l'shoa, let's say he says to the borrower, Heichon shori, he says, where's my axe? Amar lo, he says to him, and Rashi explains, V'hachi perushon, here's the explanation of the Mishnah. Amar lo shomer chinam, again he says to a shomer chinam, Heichon shori, where's my axe? Amar lo avad, he says it was lost. Mashviachani, he gives him a shvua. V'yamar amen, he says amen. V'oedim mi'idin oso sha'achlo, but the witnesses testify that he's the one that consumed it. Meshalim esakeren v'lo kefel, so in that situation, he's going to pay the principal, he's not going to bring the double payment. V'yimhodem e'atzmo, now if he admits on his own, shalo bo edim, that the witnesses did not come, so then Meshalim keren v'chomesh v'yasham, then he pays the principal and a fifth, and he brings the carbon asham. Kedin Shevuos hapikadon, like the regular halach of Shevuos hapikadon, de'ena ba ad shemod, because the halach of Shevuos hapikadon applies only by admission. V'shav mirisho uval heschaper, because it's a case where he's doing teshuva from his wickedness and he's trying to get a kapara. T'chsiv b'shvuas gezel hager b'parshas naso v'yisvadu eschatosam asher asu, because it says by the oath of the gezel hager. It says over there in Parshas Naso that it's a confession, it's talking specifically by admission. Amar lo nignav mashbiyacha, and then we have the case where he says that it was stolen. Behedya yalfinan la beperak meruba b'shomer chinam hapoter atzma b'tainas aveda eino meshalim kefal af b'shvuos. So this is explicit in Perak Meruba. If the shomer chinam tries to exempt himself with a taina that it was lost, and then it turns out that he stole it, he does not pay the double payment, even by a situation where he took an oath. Aval hapoter atzma b'tainas ganav, what we call toin tainas ganav. Let's say the shomer chinam exempts himself by claiming it was stolen from him. Uveshu, and again he takes the oath. Uvo edim, and then witnesses come, and it turns out that he's the ganav. Mishalim kefal, then he pays the double payment. T'chsivim lo yimotze haganav, like it's written in the pasuk. If they don't find the ganav, im lo yimotze kemo shehu amar. If they don't find what he said is true, elahu atzmo ganvo, rather he himself is the thief. Kidi isa hasam, like we learn over there in Baba Kama. And Rashi continues, Hoda me'atzmo mishalim karen v'chomash v'yasham. Again, if he admits on his own, so then he pays the principal and the fifth, and he brings the carbon asham. But if he's admitting you don't do the double payment, the mode of iknasu, because again, when you admit by a fine, then you don't pay that fine. Amar le'echad min hashuk, and then we had the case in the Mishnah where he just says to somebody in the marketplace, you stole it. Hachalo garsinan mashbiachani. Here, there is no text of I'm giving you an oath. To habelo shvu nami mechayev kefil, because even without an oath, the person is chayev the double payment. Shezeh ganav mamishu, because this is not a case of toin tanis ganav, this is an actual ganav. Uveganav ksiv yeshalim shnayim below shvua. By a ganav, he actually has to pay the double payment even without a shvua. And then the Mishnah said, Ra Edem Shemimashmashin Uvain. Let's say he saw that witnesses were coming, and so he admitted that he stole it, but then he said that I didn't slaughter, I didn't sell. So Ribusa Ashmin, and the Mishnah over here is teaching us a chiddush. Di'afagav demachmas biasusa de Edem Odi, even though he only admitted because he was afraid of the Edem. V'chayev atzmo bekeren kishamar ganafti, and he was obligated himself to pay the principal when he said I stole. Afilu hachi have hodan, nevertheless that's considered an admission. V'niftar min hakefel, and therefore that exempts him from any double payment. V'kevan dein kan kefel, and once there's no double payment, pater af min hatzvicha, he then becomes pater also. Let's say he slaughtered the animal. Normally you would pay 4 or 5 times the amount, but part of that 4 or 5 times the amount is the double payment. It's actually, for example, a double payment plus a 3 times the amount payment. So therefore he's pater even from the slaughtering, shekafar bo uvo edim, where in that case he didn't admit to the tvicha, he didn't admit to slaughtering it, he denied the slaughtering, and witnesses came, sheganvo v'tavachu machar, they came and they testified that he stole, and he slaughtered or he sold. Because the chiddush is, as long as you get out of kefel by admitting to the principle, there's no kefel, so there is no obligation in terms of the slaughtering to pay the 4 or 5 times the amount. Like we say over there in Baba Kama, the pasuk says it's a 4 or 5 times the amount payment. It's not a 3 or 4 times the amount payment. payment. Once you get rid of the kefil, now you have to subtract 1 time the amount, and therefore you don't pay the 4 or 5 times the amount at all. And the Mishnah continued, Amar l'shoel, if he says to the borrower. So here Rashi says, and we'll see as the Mishnah goes on, Potter mi karban shvua. In this case, he's actually exempt from karban shvua. Sharei af kishenishba l'sheker, because by a shoel, even if he takes a false oath, chayev atzmo betashlumin, he still has to pay. V'yein b'shavua zu kviras mamon. Therefore, by taking the oath, again, it's not a denial of money. Chayev, he's obligated. Sharei kafro mamon she'ilu hodim is chayev. Again, he's going to be chayev in a situation where he denies money that if he would have admitted to, the person would be chayev, as we saw in Rashi before, and as we will see as the Mishnah continues. We will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis.